All right, guys, we're going to try to practice using our organizer for STAAR. I'm trying to go through and delete as much as keep as much as I'm allowed to. There's a lot of rules. I know I'm not allowed to have plus or minuses, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to delete this formula, and I know for sure this whole word. But let's go through and see what we can do. The idea here is just to data dump. Get as much down as you can. So the D here stands for domain. We're reading it from left to right, and it is your independent variable. It's your independent variable. It's always the one that's on your x-axis. This is for factoring. Anytime you see two sets of parentheses in the answer, or it asks for the factored form, most of the time it's going to say what's the equivalent form. You're going to use menu 3, 3, 2. And this pen is difficult to read. Let me grab a better one. You're going to use menu 332. You've got to remember to flip the signs. You should also remember to bring down the coefficient. You're going to divide the coefficient and move in front the denominator. This is for the square root. Anytime it says square, it gives you the area and it wants to know one of these sides. You're going to be taking the square root of the area. Remember, you're going to be using menu 2, 3. You're going to circle groups of 2. And then whatever's in the circle comes out. If it doesn't have a friend, it stays in. This is range. Range, we're always going from low to high. It is your dependent variable. You need to know, I'm going to add one here. It's your x values. It is always your y values. It's on your y axis. This is systems of equations. EQ just stands for equations. It's when you have two equations with two variables. You're going to use menu 3, 2. It's also the one where you do the story problems where you set up these boxes, and this is total. This is x, x, y, y equals, equals. It's pretty much always plus. It's these ones as well. Okay, you should be able to, I should be able to give you these graphs. This is growth, this is decay. This is your asymptotes. It's always going to be horizontal what it's equal to. It's growth when r is bigger than 1. It's decay when it's between 0 and 1. I could put equal to on this one. This is rate of change. Rate of change is the same thing as m equals. It won't let me put equal signs in. That's against the rules, so you have to write them in yourself. Slope, and it equals rise over run. This is for parallel lines. I drew you a picture. They have the same slope. I just put an M for slope. Your job is to graph it and then trace to see. You're going to check and make sure that the line has the same slope. And then you're going to just graph and trace to see if it goes through the point that they give you. This is for negative exponents. It just switches sides of the fraction. If it was a negative on the bottom, you move it up to the top and it's now a positive. This one that was on top would still be there and be multiplied. If it was a negative on top, it moves to the bottom. This one would still be on the bottom and it would be multiplied, and you get a placeholder of 1. So it's just going to switch sides of your fraction. Okay, so for solving your equations, this is just going to be menu 3, 1. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep this end solve on there, but if I am, I'm totally keeping it. Oh, I forgot something on rate of change. My apologies. Rate of change, the triangle here is to remind you on the graph, you use the triangle. You do rise, and this is your run. And don't forget Mr. Slopeman. Really helpful. Right. This is where you put your equation. All right, this is for perpendicular. Perpendicular, you're going to remember to flip your signs, and you're also going to flip the fraction. And again, you're going to use graph and trace to see if it goes through the other point that they give you. And if you don't remember how to do graph trace, it's menu 5, 1 once you put the equation in. This one is exponents. This one, they give you all the rules on the STAAR. You just have to know how to use them. I'm going to skip that for today, and we're going to come back to it a different day. We're going to do transformations. To shift a graph up, it's just plus a number at the end. To shift it down, it's subtract a number at the end. To shift it right, it's inside. You subtract, sorry, that should be a C. You subtract inside. You add inside to move it left. And to flip top to bottom, there's a negative on the whole function. And to flip side to side, there's a negative on the x. So these ones are flips. These are tables. Anytime it gives you a table, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can just match by putting it in your graph and then going to table. I think it's menu 7, 1. That works for any time they give you a table and they ask for the best fit or the one that, which one best represents the function. You can just graph the different options, your answer choices, and match the graph. You can also put it in. You're going to put it into spreadsheet. And then you're going to go menu for 1, and then the next choice, you're going to look at your calculator. If it's a linear regression, you're going to pick the one that says y equals mx plus b. If it's an exponential, like it says this is an exponential, then you click the one that says exponential, quadratic, etc. Whatever your key descriptor is, you're going to find that. All right, x squared for solutions. That is not how you spell solution. For solutions, it's almost always menu 3, 3, 2. You can also graph and then trace, and then you're going to find zeros. You want to find your zeros. Your solutions are always your x-intercepts. Those are your solutions. They are also called zeros, roots, x-intercepts, zeros, roots, solutions. Yeah. Flip it over. All right. You should know that this is greater than. I put a dash in an open circle to help you. This is greater than or equal to. This is at most, no more than, and maximum. This is less than. This is dashed. Oh, you already know it's dashed. This is less than or equal to. This is at least, no less than, and it's also your minimum. I'm sorry. Can't get rid of this cough. This is zeros. This is x-intercept. This is solutions. This is roots. You're going to, if it asks for this and there's one variable, it's just menu 3, 1. If, I shouldn't say one variable, this is when it's just x to the first power. If it's x to the second power, it's menu 3, 3, 2. Right? I'm not sure I'm allowed to have the plus sign. I'll try to keep it, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. We do this. You're just going to line up your terms. And you line them up by the power. And then you add straight down. Same thing here, you're going to line up your terms by your power. Then you got to remember to flip the signs in your second group. And then you add straight down. Prediction is pretty easy. Prediction, you have to create your equation. This is almost always when you're using spreadsheet. So once you get your equation, you plug in the value and evaluate. So for example, if I had this, you don't have to write down, this is just to help you understand. If I got my equation out to be y equals negative 0.3 x minus, I'm going to say plus 47.89 or something, and they want to know the value of y when x is 10, you would literally just plug in 10 for x and get out your y. You'd literally just plug it in. You're going to get a number out. We don't really care about what that number is right now. Okay, this is for a graph. For a relation, which means anything that's not y equals. Let's say it's like 3x plus 2. So anything like x and y are on the same side. Anytime it's not just a y equals, you go to relationship. And that is menu 3, 2. If it is a function, so a function is anytime it has this f of x notation or a y equals, it's just menu 3, 1. To get a trace, we use menu 5, 1. And to get a table, we use 7, 1. Those are all the different things in a graph you need to be able to do. This is Slope-Intercept Form. Y equals mx plus b. The m is your slope. The b is your y-intercept. Your vertex is either the top or the bottom. If it's the top, it's your max. If it's the bottom, it's your min. Okay, if it represents a function, you need to test the vertical line test. I'm moving this x, there's not enough room. The x can go over here. Vertical line test. X's, they cannot repeat. If the x repeats, it is not a function. Okay, the y-intercept, our initial value, it's the b from y equals mx plus b. You're going to graph and then trace. If you don't have a graph, if they don't give you a y equals like this, just graph it and trace it. Axis of symmetry is always x equals. It's going to always equal a number. It's always going to be from the vertex. Whatever your vertex is, h, comma, k, it is always the h value. You're going to, again, graph and trace. Don't forget to put your name and your date on here, and you're good to go. We're going to be practicing this all week.